I was the first one to see them. It happened in the spring, early spring, around 1979 or 1980, I don't remember. But we had had a huge spring rainstorm and thunderstorm. We lived in Maryland, and we were surrounded by really tall hardwood trees. It was a forest around our house. And whenever we'd have storms, a lot of the trees would fall down. So I was out in the yard picking up dead branches and things from the storm, and I heard this crying sound over toward the edge of the woods where our yard ended. And so, of course, I went to investigate, and very quickly I found these two little baby raccoons all huddled together at the edge of the lawn, and they were just crying their little hearts out.
It appeared that they were alone and didn't have any other, a mother or anything taking care of them. So I think my mom suggested maybe taking care of them and to see if we could, help them survive.
And did you always have a fondness for animals?
Yeah, I liked animals. I mean, there was always some kind of animals around our house. There was always birds and possums and deer. We always had deer coming into our backyard. But I don't really remember seeing a raccoon up close. It was something that an animal that came at night and sometimes got into our trash cans, but I never seen a baby raccoon up close. But yeah, they were really cute. We liked them a lot.
And that made you want to keep them?
Yes, we wanted to keep them because they were cute. And, we just wanted to make sure they didn't die because their mother was no longer there. So we decided to try to take care of them.
Kate decided to name the raccoons after her favorite book, Francis and Gloria. Everything from the markings on their fur to their kind expressions reminded them of the two characters. At the time, the family lived in the eastern shore of Maryland.
God took on the responsibility of taking care of these little critters, and she checked with the people at the pet store and found out about what to do. And my only part of it, I watched, I think, Kate feed them once or twice.
I remember that we had little tiny baby bottles, like little baby bottles, not a big bottle. Almost what they might use to feed a preemie. And I do remember feeding them out of those bottles for a little while. And I don't remember taking care of them a lot, but I remember feeding them. And I remember as they got older, they didn't need very much taking care of at all. They kind of took care of themselves.
And we fed them all day long out of these bottles. I had a pillow, and we put them on their little back, and they would wrap their little hands around the bottle, and their hands were just like a little child's hands. They had little fingers, and they'd hold their bottle, and they started drinking their milk almost right away. And they were always hungry. So my children, your mother was only 5. So I was kind of afraid to let her have anything to do with them. She was so small. By the middle of the summer, they were running around, but they didn't seem to want to leave us. They didn't run off anywhere. And we just played with them, and people found out about them, and neighbors would come and see them, and other children in the neighborhood would come over and play with them. But one day we found out that our neighbors down the street had also found a little raccoon at the same time we had. So we figured that little raccoon was another little sister to these. And they had small children in their family. And one of their friends, another neighbor, went over and was playing with the raccoon and probably was not playing correctly with it and got bitten on the hand. So he went home and told his mother about it. And his mother thought, oh, it might be rabid, although we knew they weren't. So she called the animal people, and they came out and they took that little raccoon away from that family.
Though the family's love for Francis and Gloria grew, the raccoons would not stay babies forever. They were growing up quickly.
And they were the sweetest little pets you could ever have. They didn't have any odor. They just were always clean and fluffy and sweet. And we just fell in love with them. But then they got to be a little more frisky. By the end of the summer, they were getting too big to be in the garage because they were destroying things, chewing up things, scratching the car, doing all the things that big raccoons would normally do. So we had to move them out of the garage, and yet we were afraid that they wouldn't be able to feed themselves.
And then after a while, they got up pretty good size, and they were put in the garage in a cardboard container, but they started getting out of that and crawling up and getting the paper and stuff in the garage. I had shelves in the garage, and they would crawl around. So I decided we'd try to build them a cage.
And so the cage that they had built, they unlocked. They learned how to unlock it. So they put their little paws through and were able to manipulate the lock and get out at night. And so, that was a concern because we didn't want the raccoons running around the neighborhood, maybe hurting somebody. But I did learn very early on that raccoons are smart and they're industrious and they're almost human-like in a way with their ability to use their paws like hands.
Like it. And they had really gotten too large for us to handle. They were heavy and they had claws and their teeth were getting bigger, and I was afraid to have them around the children. So when they started to get out of the pen by themselves, we left the pen door open, and for a few days they would go and come back to get their food at night, and then after a while they just left and we didn't see them anymore. Now that winter in late fall, we heard them come back at night. We thought it was them, and we'd hear them outside, but they never really came up to us or tried to get back in the house or anything. So we think that they were fine and that they were old enough to be on their own. Wild animals grow up, then their nature takes over, and then they never really become domesticated like a dog or a cat. They go back to their wild ways.